So Hank Green was on Alex O'Connor's podcast, and I have never been more excited for anything in my life. So Alex O'Connor is a philosophy YouTuber and podcast person, and Hank Green is obviously Hank Green. So he had Vsauce on last week. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, and so Michael Stevens, the creator of Vsauce, and thank God that he has a TV show to promote because he was on the podcast, and then Hank Green, I think, just likes attention, and so Hank Green was on the podcast, and and as someone who was like very invested in like pseudo intellectual or like really like layman level science communication, this was a very happy day for like someone who's like is really interested in like eighth grade level science explanations. If you're someone who never grew out of like middle school science explanations and really likes Hank Green, it's a really fantastic podcast episode where he talks, I guess, more philosophically than he usually does about things. And so it was just a really exciting day to be a nerd. And I guess this is a podcast for nerds too. So thanks for tuning in to Overthinking Games, a podcast about what video games could teach us. My name is Dempsey, and joining me as usual is Brett.
Hi.
And Seth.
What's up?
And Katie. Katie is sick today. I assume her students has got her with sickness. And Katie had such a festive, fun Christmas episode. It's the 8th. It's December 8th. And Katie had such a warm, festive episode, but she's not joining us today. So we had to scramble and invent a topic. So we're going to kind of peek behind the curtains. We'll kind of be developing this topic as we talk about it for the kind of probably for like the first 10, 15 minutes of topic time. But before topic time, we talk about what we've been playing this week. I will go first. I have not been playing a lot. I've been playing more Hogwarts Legacy. I have a broom now. I do not have a beast yet. So that's kind of where I am in the game. I am learning. It's a lot of busy work, and also you can just buy things, which is something that I figured out. Like the shops and things like that, some of the quests will be like make certain potions and things like that. And then you just go make money and then go buy them. And then you solve your quests that way. I don't like the feeling of the broom very much. It feels a little bit janky and awkward. And I need to slow down anytime I have to hit one of those balloons. Because I feel like I have no depth perception of like how big the balloon is compared to me, how fast I am going, and if I am angled at it. All of that kind of fades away for me. So the kind of like 3D, like three-dimensional spatial knowledge I'm really struggling with on the broom in Hogwarts Legacy. Other than that, my opinions on the game have not changed. I've played more Power Wash Simulator, and that's a very good game. Power Wash Simulator 2 is definitely worth buying. Today is a very special day, though. I have not gone home yet. I am still in my office. But Skate Story, which is a game I am very excited for. The demo was absolutely like what's the word? With like transfigures.
Transcendent.
Transcendent, yes. It was a very transcendent experience, the demo. And the full game is out today. And so I'm very excited to play Skate Story. I think I'm going to play it on my PS5, but it came out today, so I have not got it yet. I will have to play it after work. So that's my gaming. Seth, what have you been up to? What have you been playing?
I feel like a surprising a lot to talk about versus how much I usually have to talk about. So first thing I want to make mention of is I played this very cute game called The Wear Cleaner. It is free ? On Steam. It's just a free to play game. And I don't know how they make money because the game is free. It's not like it has ads or anything. There's no in-app purchases as far as I can tell. It's just free. And it's just a good game. It's not it's not the kind of market thing that I expect, but I was like, okay. You play as like a janitor. It's a very like Katie-esque game. You play as a janitor who does not want to be seen during the day because he's supposed to be like in the background cleaning stuff up. And then at nighttime, you turn into a werewolf and you also have to do cleaning.
Is this the one where you get Sorry, you're probably going to get to this, what I'm about to say, so go ahead.
Probably. So the whole story of the game is that, like, I don't know, the company's on like crunch time or something, so everybody has to come in and work a double shift for night shift. But you are a werewolf, so like during the night you turn into a werewolf. And during the nighttime, if somebody in the office sees you, you go ballistic and you eat them. And then you also have to like clean up their guts and everything as part of finishing up the level. Odd concept. I played it for like 6 minutes and I was like, this is fun, but I'll come back to this, I guess. There's also only like 7 levels, I think. Like, it's not a very long game. It's almost more akin to like a demo for a bigger game, but I don't think they have any intent of like expanding it. It's just like small game. But that was cool. I played that for a couple minutes and I'm probably going to revisit that. I guess in order of importance here, I've been playing through a lot more Vampire Survivors because I've just kind of been on that kick. Vampire Survivors has a very nice checklist in the game of like, do these things. So I was like, okay. I don't think I ever realized how close I got to beating Vampire Survivors and just like doing everything in the game. Like, I think when I finished this game, when I finished like my first playthrough of this game back like a long time ago, a couple years ago, I'd gotten the game like 90% completed, but I didn't realize that there was like an ending, that there was like a final boss. So I just like ran through all of that. I unlocked the character you get for completing the collection, but I still technically have a bunch of other stuff to do because they've added stuff to the game over time. Yada, 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 yada. Vampire Survivors is a good game. You guys should play it. One of my favorite games of all time got an update, a game called Nuclear Throne, which I feel like I've talked about. It is one of the like prototypical roguelite experiences, and it's also a very old one. I think it's their 10-year anniversary as of the 5th. So they released like a big content update. They gave each of the characters a new like skin, unlockable skin. They did like a couple tiny little like balance things. Great game. I love that game so much. I have like 250 hours in it. And it's very just like top down, shoot 'em up, roguelite style. We love a good roguelite. So I've been playing that a couple hours as of recent. Last note, and I know I messaged this in our Discord chat, but I played this game called Face Miner. Dempsey, did you read my Face Miner notes?
I did not.
Because I think you would really like this game. I think everyone would really like it. So it starts out as... It really is sort of like an idle clicker. Sort of like Cookie Clicker or like any one of those games. But the whole concept of the game is it's called Face Miner. So it shows you a grid, like a 3x3 grid on your computer. And the goal of it is that you are shown a bunch of faces and you have to click, like, if it's actually a picture of like a face, because sometimes it'll be like the side of somebody's head, or it'll be a picture of like a cat, or of like it's kind of like a CAPTCHA, or it'll be a picture of like a light pole.
Okay.
And you have to go through and click faces with the idea supposed to be that you're doing like facial ID training.
Sure.
For like an AI. But it's all stylized like it's in the 90s.
Okay.
And eventually you unlock an upgrade that's like, oh, it automatically clicks the faces for you. And then you can get like accuracy upgrades. But so like it clicks faster and more accurately. But then there's this whole like management sim side to the game, because every time you buy an upgrade, it increases like how much RAM you're using and like how much storage you need on your computer and like the temperature of your computer. So you also have to like manage your hardware at the same time.
Oh, that's fun.
So there's a couple different like management things that are happening all at once. But then at the bottom left of the screen, they have a message box. So you'll get these like messages in every once in a while from like other people in the narrative that are like also doing Face Miner. And sometimes they'll just be like, oh, has anybody like been to this thing in town? But sometimes it'll be somebody who's like, hey, like I feel like I just saw my face. Or like, has anybody else seen any faces of anybody they know? Like it'll sometimes be casual messages. Sometimes you get a message from like corporate that's like, hey, keep the casual communications out of the chat. It's very just like, it's very normative. But then like as the game progresses, you know, you buy your upgrades and everything, you go down the different sort of like upgrade trees. It gets to the point where you're spending a lot of resources like managing your temperature because you have to buy like electricity generators and water coolers for like your fancy computer system. And then you get a message from corporate that's like, hey, the public is really getting on our butt about like our electricity usage and the emissions it's producing. So we're starting a corporate initiative where we're going to plant a tree for every upgrade you buy. And then it has now like a new emissions tracker. So now you have to like manage your emissions with everything else.
What?
And as you're managing all these systems, like that goes on for a while. Eventually you keep getting these emails from your company that's like, oh, we're doing this like new environmental program, blah, 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 blah. And then you get this message that's like, hey, we've received notice from the scientists that the Earth temperature seems to be increasing as a result of Face Miner, all of our Face Miner data centers. Just buy more like carbon emission tax credits to like help off balance that for your system. So the finer meter that pops up is Earth's temperature. Earth's average temperature, and as you keep buying upgrades, the temperature of your computer goes up. The temperature of the Earth slowly goes up over time, and that's sort of like the ending. The ending of the game is eventually Earth gets too hot and everybody dies. But like meanwhile, as you go, every once in a while you'll just get like an emergency transmission, and like a screen will pop up on your computer. Or a window will pop up on your computer. It'll just be a video of like a flood somewhere or something that you just like click out and you go back to the game. The whole thing is stylized like it's on like Windows 95. So you get like a Windows 95 desktop, and then there's icons on it that's like the Face Miner suite of softwares.
Sure.
And then like your file directory, and you know, your little messenger box looks like AIM, but like 1995.
Sure.
It also has a built-in soundtrack that's a fucking banger.
Love that.
It's got very Frutiger Arrow, like 90s nostalgia, like late 90s nostalgia vibe to it. I just listened to it the whole time I played the game because it was that good. But anyway, it's a game very worth playing. It's very obviously giving commentary on like AI and data centers and like government surveillance and climate change, all sort of wrapped up into one nice package. It's a 2-hour game. I don't think I mean, I technically spoiled it, but like, even knowing where you know where it's going. As soon as they start being like, here's the temperature of the Earth, you're like, oh no, like this can only go bad. I actually distinctly remember because it started at like, you know, the current average Earth temperature, which is I think like 55. So it showed Earth temperature being like 55.3, and then you watch it go to like 55.4, and you're like, that's bad. And then it goes 55.5, and you're like, that is climbing way too fast. And there's a couple other like fun little Easter eggs that they have built into everything in the game that sort of make you like wrestle with what you're doing in the game. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a secret ending that's like you just like shut everything down at some point.
Sure.
But I got it for sale for like $5. I think it's usually like $8. I got like a solid 2 hours out of it, and I could 100% see myself like going back to this game and like giving it another run through. So
that seems worth it.
Yeah, it's super fun, super cool.
It sounds a little paper-pleasy.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
It is. Have you ever played Little Inferno?
Yes.
No.
It's a little more Little Inferno-esque than Papers, Please.
Gotcha.
Because Papers, Please is almost like episodic.
Sure.
This is like very continual with its like climate change message too. But you should just play Little Inferno. It's another banger of a game. I think that might be it. Yeah.
Cool.
That's it. Brad, what have you been playing?
I have actually been playing... I keep starting games and then not finishing them, or I keep going back to games that I am continually playing. Like, I don't need to talk more about Battlefield 6. I've talked about Ring of Pain. I've been playing both of those very consistently. I started up Space Marine 2 again, because we talked about it a few weeks ago. And I started going through all of the PvE missions that I never did. And I didn't realize how bad I've gotten at it. Like, I am just a constant burden to my teammates because I've forgotten how to play. It took me a solid hour to remember how to parry because I was too stubborn to look up the controls. And I feel bad playing it because I am just taking everyone down with me. But that's been a lot of fun. And I've been really enjoying just unlocking the different chapter armor and all the paints and the sigils, and it's very, I don't know, it's a nice grind. Like, it is quite the grind to get everything, but it's not too long. Like, every mission you do, you at least unlock something, so it doesn't feel too bad.
Yeah.
And I'm very tempted to buy like some of the DLC packs, but I'm holding myself off because I don't need to buy cosmetics for this game. Although I really want to.
I played a little bit of Space Marine 2 with a friend. We played like a couple rounds just because we hadn't played in a while.
Yeah.
It holds up. I mean, it's a fun game. I just don't have the desire to like go back and play hours of it.
Oh, yeah. No, that's totally fair. I think it's fun to pick up for like an hour or two every now and then. I couldn't see myself playing it like every day. I also picked up Disco Elysium again, and I started playing through that because I realized it's actually been a couple years since I finished it. And I'm trying for a different cop archetype. And I was trying to go for serious cop or like boring cop because I thought that would be an interesting playthrough to like do everything by the book and very intellectually. And I ended up getting sorry cop instead. And I don't understand how that happened. So I guess now I'm doing a sorry cop playthrough of Disco Elysium, but I'm not too far into it. Like, I just finished the first day, and I mean, it's Disco Elysium. I think we've talked a lot about Disco Elysium. I really enjoy Disco Elysium. If you haven't played it, just go play it. It's so good. The other two things that I've been playing that I have a lot to say about, one is last week. So today's December 8th. On December 4th, we had both Metroid Prime 4 and the Elden Ring Night Rain DLC come out. I've played quite a few hours of both. I'll start with Night Rain DLC because it's a little less. So they basically, you have two new characters, two new main bosses. They added a bunch of different new stats for your like runes or whatever you want to call them. And there's basically an entirely new map. I think the new map is confusing and a bit garbage. It's not as clear as playing in Limfeld. Yeah, you know what? It is a bad take. I think it's incredibly confusing. And I think that and maybe it's just because everyone's too new. I've gotten the hang of the map, but it seems like 10% of the people I play with have actually gotten the hang of it and understand what to do. Everyone else is still jumping off into the bottomless pits and just dying every 3 seconds. Or they're rushing like the towers immediately at like level 4 and we're just dying because you're fighting like the Bell-Bearing Hunter on crack at level 4 and people just don't understand when to say no. So I've had a lot of really bad runs, and it's taken a hit on my psyche. I think I'm starting to hate people as a result. I really like the new characters, though. I think Undertaker is probably the coolest character in the game, even though I think she desperately needs a buff. But she's pretty good. I really like her. She gives me like Bloodborne vibes, which I really like. That's my favorite FromSoft game. So my headcanon is that she's from the Bloodborne universe, which makes a lot of sense based on everything she is. It's probably not true, but like it fits.
She gave me like sort of like Sable Church vibes from like DS3.
Yeah.
Which is very like Bloodborne-esque as well.
Yeah, and that's probably what I figure it's more leaning in towards, given there's plenty of Dark Souls references. I don't know if there are many Bloodborne references in the game, but it's probably more a Dark Souls reference. But I like the DLC overall. The Dreglord is really hard. The one before that, the Harmonious what is it? It's like the weapon wielding harmonium or something like that. I think that is the coolest fight in Night Rain, and I don't even think it's close. I think it's really, really neat. It's a great fight. It feels really good when you finally beat it, because it is
it's a
pretty
tough one.
challenging. But it's a really good fight. Overall, I think the DLC is worth it. It's like $20, and I think it's worth it for $20.
So if you buy...
yeah, I don't know.
Just assumed it was free.
I bought the deluxe edition, which comes with all future DLC. So I had to like
must have done that too, because it just like auto downloaded for me. I was like, oh, sick.
Yeah. So I think it's $20. Maybe it is just free. I don't know. It was free for me and Seth. So
yeah.
That's pretty much all I have to say about Night Rain. It's good. Like, if you liked Night Rain, it's a really good addition onto it. The new characters are sick. I don't know what else
it's
to
15.
say. Is it fit? Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. 20 Canadian dollars. 15 American dollars. Sorry. My northern brain cannot comprehend. The other thing that I've been playing is Metroid Prime 4. And I insist that I like the game, but my wife insists that I hate it. Because I just... I don't know, I'm enjoying playing it, but every time I talk about it, apparently all I do is complain about it and complain about the things that are weird or different. Like, why did they add a really shitty open world with a motorcycle? Like, that, I just don't understand why. Like, it seemed cool in the trailer because I thought it was just going to be like a little thing. But no, it's like the entire game is based around the motorcycle, and I think it's done really badly. It's done in a... Okay, so this game was in development hell for like 10 years, probably longer than that.
Wait, it's a Metroid game with a motorcycle?
And an open world. Yeah. It's not good. It's not good.
Isn't it supposed to be like a Metroidvania?
Yes. Yes, you would really think so, wouldn't you? And this is where my main complaint comes in. Because it feels like they have... It feels like the studio... Because I think it went between like 3 studios, or maybe one studio back to another, something like that. The game was in development hell. It feels like that's because Nintendo was trying to tell them to make a Tears of the Kingdom, but in Metroid. That's really what it feels like, typical Nintendo shitification of like, oh, hey, we made this good game. Let's bring all of the other games in our catalog on par with this like one thing that we've done, or like try to do that. And it feels like shit. I don't think it's... I don't know. The parts that are Metroid are very good. Like, all of the little level designs are pretty decent, but it's missing a large interconnected world. The large interconnected world is just a literal, like, it's a 10-kilometer square radius of just an empty desert with a couple POIs in it. And then in each corner, you go to another... So one of them is a snow place. One of them is an electric-y place. One of them is a lava pit. And nothing is connected. It'd be like if they took Dark Souls and just added nothing in between. Like, instead of having a nice interconnected level design, they just add a big blank space with a boat where you sail to all of the different locations. It's bad. Overall, I think the parts that are much Metroid are good. I think that they did a lot of things right. The soundtrack is pretty good, which I was kind of worried about because Metroid Prime has a very specific vibe, especially with the soundtrack. But they did a good job with the soundtrack for the most part. It's just the gameplay seems weird. And also the premise is just weak as fuck. I don't know. It's... Usually there's at least a half good reason why you lose all your upgrades. This one, it happens in the first 5 minutes of the game, so it's not a spoiler. You bump into an artifact and you teleport to a planet where your upgrades are just not compatible with the planet, so you lose them. It's just like, it's bad. And then they just give you psychic powers. They put a gem in your forehead and you get psychic powers. And everything is, instead of like grapple hook, it's psychic grapple beam. And it's like, but that's not necessary. Just make it a grapple hook. It doesn't need to be a psychic. It's, I don't know. The whole psychic thing, I think, is a really weird mechanic that just doesn't, I don't know. It feels like they were trying to make another game or another like 3 games. And then they just threw it in Metroid. I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything about it. It's just weird. It's a very strange game.
Also, I mean, I feel like the idea of, hey, here's this thing you used to be able to do, but now it's psychic, is a bit of like a video game trope.
Yeah, but
like
it's at least in the other Metroid Primes. I mean, 3 aside, 3 was also kind of meh. But at least they had something like interesting. Like, it was like interesting elements. Or the first Metroid Prime, it's like you have like, you know, like the dark. Well, I don't know, whatever. It's like there's interesting like elements, and it's not like worldly. Whereas this one's literally just like, okay, you have psychic, fire, water, and or fire, ice, and electric, and it's just like, I don't know. I wish they would have just come up with something different. I think there's also an ice beam in Metroid Prime 1. Again, it just feels like they're reusing a lot of things, but then reskinning them, which just kind of feels a little bad. I wish that there was a little bit more original thought put into it. But I'm also a diehard fan of the Metroid Prime series. Like, I played the first one when it came out, and so I'm going to have a lot of maybe harsh opinions on it, but I recognize my takes are probably bad, but this is it's nostalgia based. I also bought it on the Switch 1, and it plays really terribly, and I think that goes into our topic. So
it does. So our topic is technology as a medium. And I think there's a lot of different directions we can go. So we can talk about like the performance of a game, how like game technology over time has changed, and also like what like AI means. Like, I think this would be a good opportunity to talk about like games using AI, because obviously like that's a technological development that will seem to impact video games. And I think everyone's going to have like a different take on this. I think our podcast is kind of fun to talk about this because we have two professional creatives. Brett and I both work in creative fields. And so I think probably we'd spend time thinking about AI maybe in like more practical ways than the average person does.
Yeah.
There's two examples, or there's one example that I want to talk about. So a game I have not played. I think maybe I want to start talking about AI. So Arc Raiders, which has really good reviews and people are saying that, you know, it's a very good game. There's two examples of AI in Arc Raiders. Or no, an example in the finals. I'm not sure if it's an Arc Raiders, but I know their game before the finals used AI voice acting to have announcers that said that, and that was trained on actual actor's voice, and then they would AI. And I think that's like what kind of broadly we would consider like generative AI. But for Arc Raiders, they used AI to train some of the enemies on how to walk. And so the walking is more responsive and looks more natural because it was trained through like simulated iteration rather than like an animator, you know, trying to make like specific animations for how the enemies would respond. So that they were taught to walk via AI training, and then the animators went up and like cleaned it up and like make sure it wasn't clipping, or, you know, make sure it looked aesthetically like how it was. But because of the AI training, there's a lot more free to interact with the environment in surprising ways. And I think those are kind of two different ways of using or talking about AI in video games. And so like the generative AI, which feels like a little bit more of an attack, like if people are making like art assets or voice acting and using AI to make that, but then like AI is also used in a bunch of other ways. And so I think like animation training for these like spider enemies, like I think that's really interesting. And if it gives you something that you could not do with traditional animation, like I think it's really difficult for me to have pure aversion to that. Like it seems like just like a more tech heavy new way to teach something, you know, how to behave. And I guess like hearing about that, I had a lot less aversion than when I heard that, you know, it was AI voice lines. Like that I have great aversion to, because like there's something about the human voice that you want to connect with the person, or you want it to feel human, or you want to know that like this is coming from someone with a perspective or something. But yeah, and so I think like, I guess this is kind of our topic, but this is it's like, do either of you have feelings about if a game has AI and how it's using it? Like if that would impact your enjoyment or impact like your interest in the game in the first place.
So I think one thing that's also important, and Dempsey, this is, I think, one of those things you're touching on, is AI is currently like a buzzword that means a lot of different things.
Yes.
Because like generative AI, in the case of like, taking somebody's voice and recreating a new voice out of that, is something that's very different than like a deep learning neural network.
Yeah.
Which is designed to, like, in a classic sense, like recognize handwriting, which is what it was used for a long time, but also to like, develop the skeleton of like an animation rig in such a way that it like optimizes movement over like different terrains, is very different than like a large language model like ChatGPT that is just like predicting new words. And we call all of those things AI, but in reality, they're like 3 entirely different computer programs that do 3 entirely different things.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think that's part of the like, a lot of the conversation of like, okay, what's like an actual interesting use case for AI and where is it like acceptable to use it? I don't know a lot about this topic, but I saw some conversation about it that was like, for somebody who develops 3D models, like you don't want some sort of like AI system to develop your 3D model for you, because there's like artistry in the, development of that model.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also like some incredibly tedious parts of developing that model that would be much nicer if like an AI could just do it for you. And I think the example that I was shown was like, so it's something to do with like UV mapping, like a 3D model, and how like, yeah, you can do it by hand and it sucks, but there's already like computer programs that sort of do it. So, but like using some sort of like AI model to optimize that computer program is like, sure, whatever, right? Like you're taking out the tedious part of this that sort of has some artistry to it, but you're leaving me more time to do like the front facing actual artistry that people will care about.
Sure.
Yeah, and on that point specifically, so I mean, that goes into like my work, where if someone supplies me with a photo and they say, hey, can you remove this blemish? Like, I'm going to go into Photoshop, and 9 times out of 10, I'm going to grab, there's tool that like you basically just like cover an area and then it will automatically fill in based on things around it, right? And that was never coined as an AI or like a machine learning thing. But now it is. Like that tool is now part of the Adobe Creative Cloud. There is an enhanced version of that they buzzword with AI. So if I use that tool, it's not using AI in a traditional, or in like the sense that I think a lot of people would think of it as, but like it is automating a process. Whereas like I could just go in with the brush tool and I could like paint over everything. I have the skill to be able to do that, but I'm not going to, because it's going to take me like several minutes rather than 0.5 seconds. Like it's going to take the click of a mouse rather than, a lot of my time. So I can get a lot more done in a smaller amount of time by using these tools that now are buzzword AI tools. Whereas if I were to go into, if someone asked, hey, can you make me a logo, or like, can you make me a branding package? And I just went to ChatGPT and I was like, okay, they are a winery based in Southern Ontario on like Niagara on the Lake. And, they care about this, and this. Their colors are black and gold, or, whatever it is. And then it gives me a logo and I just slap that in a branding package. That's wrong. Like, that's not right. But so you're right. Like, there's different use cases for different kinds of what is now just buzzword AI. Like, not everything is AI. I think that large language models are a problem in a lot of areas. They can be useful in a lot of different areas, but I think that the way that they're generally used is pretty bad. And relating that back to video games, I think that as long as it's done ethically, I don't know what the case was for the finals. So I played a little bit of the finals and I thought that the narrative work was really, really good. So basically the narrators, they would comment on very specific interactions that were happening in the game that you could, like, it would be insane to hire a voice actor to say all of these things, because you'd have to get them back in the studio every 10 minutes because a new interaction comes up that you need them to explain. Whereas if you do the AI model, it's very cool. Like, it's a very neat thing. I don't know what the case is, so I'm assuming that they did it, if they did it ethically, where they paid someone to train an AI with their voice, they paid them fairly, assuming, and then they just use that voice to train an AI. I think that's fine. I think that's an okay use case for something like that, where, especially in a multiplayer game where literally anything can happen, there's 1,000,000,001 interactions depending on who's playing against who. And having something like that is a very neat feature, again, with the caveat of it being done ethically. Whereas if they brought someone into the office, promised them a voice acting role, and they did all of the lines that they thought they were going to do, and then they later decided, no, we're actually going to shift to using their voice for AI and, do it that way, I think that's a problem.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of a continuing question of like ownership, right? Because that seems to be sort of like the generative AI issue. And to me, this is the difference between like the idea of like correcting a blemish versus like, generating a logo for something. Is if you're correcting a blemish, really all that's happening is we call it like a generative AI. But all that's really happening is like the computer program is like comparing nearby pixels and then like using that to like find some sort of like average pixel density, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's not actually using a series of other faces to determine like, oh, what should this look like?
Exactly.
It's more of like a localized, it's almost like a fancy math formula.
Yeah.
Rather than collection of stolen work. And I think that's also the point there about like, I sort of agree with Brett, although I have a lot less stakes in the game because I'm not the professional creative here. I think it's reasonable, right? The idea of, hey, I'm essentially paying somebody for a license to their voice rather than like the specific lines they said, but sort of like an open license for their voice, which I'm sure some lawyer somewhere is having fun figuring out. But that's different because that person has agreed to like, hey, I'm agreeing that you can use my voice to have it say whatever you want, rather than like, I agreed to say these specific things. Also, and now I have to ask because I'm curious, does Arc Raiders also have like NPCs that are all like AI and stuff, and they're like you interact with, and they talk back to you through like
at the very
text?
least, at the very least, I did not read about that. I do not. Okay. I do not know if that's.
It might have been a different game then, but I saw a really funny article popped up on like my Instagram feed where one of these like RPG games that uses NPCs that have like essentially some sort of like large language model brain behind the NPCs so that you could just like talk to them. People were completing quests in the game by just going to the quest giver NPCs and being like, I did it. And they were like, okay.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a very funny, like socially engineering large language models that are in video games. It's I'm sure to be some insane speedrun tech in the future. Or I'm sure will cause some like insane problem in some MMO in the future where they like convince an NPC to do something it's not supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, video games rely on dialogue as a mechanic, and I don't think you can put guardrails around a language model that's not gonna break the mechanics of the game. So I
also saw a follow-up article that was like, if you talk to large language models in like a very like poetic, I think if you literally just respond to them in poetry, you can get them to break their guardrails like 65% of the time or something.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. So Brett, I'm kind of interested. We can move off of AI a little bit, but I'm interested. I'm going to come up with a use case, and I want you guys to tell me how you feel about it.
Okay.
Sure.
So there's a game that I really appreciate called Lake, and it's where you play. It's a smaller team developed It's where you play a male woman in the 80s, and one of the locations is a video store, right? And currently in the video store, there's only like 3 movies, and all of the shelves are just these 3 movies. And I think it's cheap and bad. And the same thing with the menus. Like if you go into a restaurant, like a menu as in like an actual restaurant. So you can go and deliver mail to a restaurant, and you go in and all of the menu signage is exactly the same. And like there's the grocery store is all of like the same 3 items over and over and over again. And it looks bad. And it's these flat 2D like textures basically. And so this game came out, I think, like before generative AI was as big as it is. So hypothetically, let's say it's the same game, right? And they decide, okay, we don't have like the time or budget to fill in the video store with like, you know, to make it feel like a video store. And we are going to like make, you know, fake VHSs with AI to put on the stands as like, would that be something that you would say is okay? Because right now it's bad. As is, it's bad and breaks immersion. So would you be okay with them using AI to fill in that part of the production design?
Yeah. Seth, do you want to talk to this first, or do you?
Like, no, but on the basis of like, it feels like the solution here is they just need to put more time into doing that.
Sure.
Like,
yeah,
what are they going to do? Like, record a bunch of like, there's almost something interesting here of like recording a bunch of like video segments of your. I don't even know how you would use generative AI for something like this, other than just being like make.
Oh no,
like
it's box art. It's box art for cassettes.
Yeah,
like
just box art.
It's just the box art. It's not the
just
actual videos.
art?
I'm looking at a screenshot of it right now, and I see exactly what you're saying. Like, it's literally the same 3 or 4 images. It's like the 6th picture on the Steam page. So my take on this is, and this is coming from, so my job, a lot of
and
it.
Lake, hold on, I just want to make it clear.
Yeah.
Lake does not use AI. Like that, or like,
yes.
This is not an example of a game that has used AI that I'm interested in. I don't want anybody to listen to this thinking that the game Lake had AI usage. That did not happen. This is just an example of how I could see developers using AI. I think this is an example that I think we will have to be contending with in the future. Anyway, sorry, Brett, go on.
So basically, this is my take, is that I think just using AI to generate the images, I think that is wrong. And that's just because I don't think that there's a lot wrong with AI generated images onto like everyone, like someone will be able to notice it. Some cases are more egregious than others. But so in my job, unfortunately, a lot of what I get is customers thinking that they can do my job themselves by asking ChatGPT to make them a logo or make them an illustration or make them whatever. And then they send it to me and they say, print this. And I say, I can't print this because either it's something is spelled wrong, something has too many fingers. There's a lot of weird gradients and lines and funky things that just, it's general AI generated garbage that's just in there because it's, AI hallucinates at a point when it's creating images. So I think that I think that overall, yes, just if you were to just be like, hey, I need 24 different VHSs, make me something. I think that's wrong if you just use that asset. What I think would be fair is to take that asset and do what I do, which is redraw. Basically, they're like, hey, I want exactly this. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to redraw this. And it's going to be cheaper because you gave me the idea. I just need to make it not look terrible. Like, I need to fix it. I need to make it look good. I'm going to redraw it from the ground up. And that's going to be the entire thing. And I will give that if I were doing freelance, I'll give that at a much cheaper rate because I don't have to think. I literally just have to redraw it as is, and they're usually happy. And I think that that's the move, is if they need it done quickly, if they need it done cheaply, I still think that there should be some human input. And I think human input is always very important in things like that, just anything artistic. And I think that they should still send that to an artist and say, hey, we just want these. Can you please just draw these as they are, but not AI? And that might sound redundant to people who don't do art or people who think that, oh, well, it's the exact same. If you're just redrawing the same thing, it's the same thing. It's not. Like, that's unfortunately a large part of my job, is taking AI images and making them not look like they're AI. And that's a lot of the design world. Because my design, I don't know if I've said it exactly, it's graphic design. So it's a lot of logo, brand stuff, a lot of making, business cards, t-shirts, all signage, all that stuff.
Sure. I think, so that's really interesting. That sounds a little bit dystopian, the idea of taking AI images and having to make them not AI. That's very funny. Yeah. I think I would have a problem with it, but but it wouldn't make me not play a game. Like, it would be like I know Rockstar has crunch and is union busting, and I'm still going to play GTA 6. Like, I think on some level, I have some acceptance that the video game industry is doing unethical things, and like Microsoft is letting people off just so their shareholder value can go up, not because people aren't being productive, or like Microsoft will lay off studios. They'll buy studios to decrease competition or to make shareholder value go up when they're in like a buying phase, an acquisition phase, and then they'll shut down studios when they need to be in a cost-cutting phase. And like, that's ruining people's lives. But I'm like still going to play Flight Simulator. I don't know. So like, I think it's one of those things where like, I would say that is immoral. Like, I think like a guy, like if you're going to have the asset in the game, I, as a consumer, am buying that game to see your perspective on what an 80s town is like, on what a VHS store in the 80s, like, what does that feel like to you? And that is what I am purchasing. I am purchasing that experience. And for you to offload that onto like an algorithm, I feel like is breaking that consumer contract that I have with an artist who's like putting out something creative. Like, oh, this is no longer like how you or someone that you hired felt about this. And so like, I think, cause like I'm a director, and I think like the only thing that I have to offer professionally is vision, is like, this is how I experience this. This is what I feel about this. Like, that is the extent of my job, is to be like, okay, like when we want someone to, and I'm commercial direct, but like, it's like when we want someone to look like authoritative and confident, this is how that feels to me. And then I come and I share my perspective, and I do work from my perspective. So I think I would have a problem with it. Like, I don't think that that's an okay use case.
Yeah.
But I would play the game because I'm a moral coward and have no values that I stand behind. So,
wild.
So that's my take.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we could just keep talking about AI in video games and just have that be the episode, honestly, at this point. Like,
would you have more to say?
Yeah, a little bit. And just so I think the moral point is very interesting, because it is, I think it is a moral issue of, you should be paying artists to do art. Like, that's like, I think artists have a place in society. They've always had a place in society. And I think offloading that responsibility onto an algorithm that's just burning water to make this happen, I think is inherently immoral. And I think that if it's not in the budget and, oh, we don't have the time to pay an artist, it's like, well, that's not the fault of the art. You know what I mean? Like, the art shouldn't suffer because of your lack of foresight. Like, I'm sorry that you didn't realize that illustrators need money to live. Like, yes, us artists,
or like you have too many buildings.
Types.
Like as a project manager, your job is to make sure that you have the resources to fit the scope of the work. And so okay, like, make the restaurant smaller then. Like, like I wouldn't accept any excuse. I'd be like, look, like, you are selling me this version of an 80s town. I'm excited to go back into the 80s through like a human being's perspective. I understand if you couldn't give me like, a 300 square foot video store, like make the video store only have like 3 shelves then, and I'll understand that it's a simplified version of it. Like, anyway, so I'm so sorry.
Even figure out some way to like represent the video store. If you're only going to have 3 games, make that like part of the image of like remembering video stores being smaller than they were because you were smaller at the time.
Sure. Yeah.
So like
that's an
you
interesting
only played
perspective.
3 games, so there's only 3 that are represented on the wall because that was your experience with like the video game store.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's also another point to this, and there's maybe a counterpoint, but it goes back to my point of you should be, if you're making art and you are not personally capable of making the art, you should still be paying artists to do that job. So I can bring this to D&D, where I know several DMs who will go into ChatGPT and they'll make artwork, like they'll request artwork of the characters or of like scenes and stuff like that to have physical representations of what's in their mind because they are not artistically capable of making that thing. I think that in a closed box, I think in that little space, that can be okay because I want the DM to be able to describe to me exactly what they want to say. I want their vision. And if they are not artistically capable of, illustrating that image, then I think they should be allowed to do that as an amateur. But I think as soon as it crosses the line to being a professional, if you are not an artistic person and you are making a game, if you are a one-man development, if you are yourself making a game and you do not feel like you are an artistic person and you use AI as a placeholder, you're making placeholder textures or 3D models or assets, you can use that as a placeholder. But at the point where you want to make that a game that is commercially available, as soon as you are doing this professionally, as an amateur, I think it's okay. As soon as you bring it to the professional level, you need to be paying someone to do that. Whether you go on Fiverr and give some guy on Fiverr your AI-generated assets and say, hey, here's the vibe I'm going for, can you please make me these assets? Or whether you find someone in the scene who is capable of doing these things and is willing to work for a little cheaper because this isn't your job, like you're just making this game for fun maybe, but like the art still has a cost. You should still be offloading that art as soon as it becomes something that is going beyond your living room. And I think that's largely my take on it, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but also, I was also going to say, like, even like AI generating art is it still comes off to me as like the lazy way of doing things.
Yeah.
And my example of this is like the Slay the Spire beta art. Because all the Slay the Spire beta art was like community generated. Like they just had people in the community draw cards, and then that's what they used for the beta art until they had, like, I don't know if it was until they had money to pay for artists or like until they settled on stuff.
Did they kickstart? Like, I thought they kickstarted Slay the Spire. Am I thinking of something else?
I don't know, but they had like beta art in there that's, I think, mostly like community drawn. So like, if you're doing beta art, like who cares? Draw it yourself. Like, one of my favorite games of all time is called Dream Quest. It's actually the predecessor, the spiritual predecessor to Slay the Spire. All of the art in that game is drawn by the developer in MS Paint. Yeah. It looks like it was drawn in MS Paint. It's like one of the best deck builders that has ever existed. And everything literally looks like MS Paint. And it looks like the kind of thing that a high schooler would do in MS Paint. Like, it doesn't look like an artist did it. Because the guy's a programmer first and an artist 53rd.
Yeah.
And like, because of that, though, the game's got a style to it.
Yeah.
Like, everything in the game you look at and you're like, yeah, this looks like it was done in MS Paint by a guy who doesn't know what he's doing. But like, that's the vibe of the game.
Sure, yeah.
And I think that's also perfectly valid. And like, I know someone who, they made comics for a while, like little internet comics, not like, Dark Horse comics. And they don't consider themselves an artistic individual. But they took it upon themselves to, literally, they made comics in MS Paint and they gained like a ton of virality with those. Like, they went viral on several of their memes. And all of that without considering themselves to be an artistic person, because they picked up MS Paint, they looked at other comics that they liked that had a style that they wanted to emulate, and they just emulated that on their own to the best of their ability. These comics were just a vessel for jokes. Like, all they wanted was just to get like jokes across, and they're like, well, I should put like a little dude in there to be saying the joke or whatever. And I think that's also like perfectly valid, where even if you don't consider yourself a creative type, it should still be done by a person. Like, as soon as it's past the conceptualization. Like, but again, I do think that AI is like, to play the devil's advocate, I do think that AI does have a place for like kind of conceptualizing, like if you're really stuck and you really need something, you could go to Chat GPT and, you know, get it to conceptualize something just to get your brain going.
Sure.
But you should never do it for anything more than just a conceptualizing phase. But I think that's all in just trying to like normalize like small use cases for AI, because I think it can be useful. And when I say AI, I'm talking about, you know, large language models and generative AI. You know, like you said, Seth, there's a lot of, it's a buzzword. There's a lot of things that fall under AI. And actually, if no one has anything more to say about that specific thing, I think there's another point where a lot of game developers, like AAA developers, they're kind of being put under the gun at the moment because they're being asked, are you using AI in your games? Are you using AI like, you know, like Rockstar? I think BioWare took it recently, or Obsidian. I think that, you know, like there's a lot of bigger developers who have recently spoke out, and they kind of put it in the perspective of, yes, we've always used what you would call AI. Like the buzzword AI covers so many things that we have always used these things. They just weren't called AI 20 years ago, or like 10 years ago. This wasn't AI. It was just a, like, it was a generative thing, or it was something, it was an automated process. Like a lot of it, I think, is probably just automation. But now you have to disclose that and be like, oh, well, this was made with, technically it's made with AI, because now that's what we consider AI. Whether or not it's actually AI is, I think, a different conversation. But yeah.
I mean, my understanding of like AI in games traditionally was just like, it was everything about like how do the enemies in the game move, like how like their pathfinding was considered AI, and like what the enemies decide, who they decide to shoot in the game first, and like the logic behind, for example, like Pokemon, the logic behind what move they decide to pick in a given circumstance. To me, that was always, before like 2022, that's what I considered AI to be.
Yeah, sure. Or like, I think in video games it's interesting because you're representing agents. Like in video games, you are representing intelligence in some way. And so I think the terminology with like enemies having AI, like you could describe that as like, you know, puzzle solving algorithms or things like that. But I think a lot of that language probably has to do with the fact that they are meant to replicate, or to, you know, meant to be a metaphor for someone with actual intelligence. So when you play Dark Souls and like the skeleton's AI or whatever, like it's assumed in the fiction of the game that the skeletons have some kind of agency, but obviously it's not real. And so I think that's how that verbiage, which now that verbiage is not that. Like we don't assume it's like a metaphor for something that has agency anymore. But I do think that's probably where the initial, that's why we call it artificial intelligence, is because in video games, uniquely in video games, I can't think of any other place in art or commerce that this would be the case, but you had to like make a facsimile for something that had agency, but obviously doesn't actually have agency. I think so. And also like going back to like when is AI okay to use? I think there's going to be a couple ways to figure this out. I think first of all, I think it's important for people to understand that nobody is owed the ability to make a product. Like I cannot make Avatar, the James Cameron movie, right? Because I don't have access to that technology. And like, there's no way I can like project manage myself into that kind of resources. And that's okay. That the fact that I can never myself make Avatar doesn't give me the right to steal Avatar and call it my own. Yeah. Like you are not owed the opportunity to make things that are beyond the scope of what your resources are. Now, I can make like a low budget fantasy film that, you know, evokes some sense of wonder, you know, based on the resources that I have access to. And I love low budget games and movies, but I don't think that just because you have a vision in your head, if that vision requires you stealing someone else's work, that's not like that's not a good reason to steal someone else's work. It's because you think that you have the right to make that vision. I think like no one is owed the opportunity to make something that is beyond the resources that they ethically have access to. So that's the first thing. Like, and also I think a lot of this will be, and I don't know if this is like a very satisfying answer on like when is AI okay and when is AI not okay. But I think a lot of it is going to be based on like professional industry standard and norms. Because like because I use Photoshop, and like in Photoshop, like when like there are some more complicated things that I want to take out, and I do use Gen AI for. So like generative AI, if I'm removing like a light from a scene or a chord, I don't feel guilty about doing that with the generative AI feature. Sometimes it can handle shadows better than like the content aware feature. Like if there's a shadow or movement as well is something that it can handle a little bit better than like traditional algorithms. So like, but I think most filmmakers would be okay with that. You know, basically like wire work. You use Gen AI to do wire work because generating the pixels is sometimes better than trying to predict what the next pixel is through simpler algorithms. And I think that like what is okay and what isn't is going to be determined by the individuals in the industry who do that work. And so like, I think like, for example, if SAG or, you know, hopefully more video games actors have some kind of union representation, because I think you should not have to like barter with Bethesda on your own. Like that's the thing about like unions is that like they protect people from like huge corporations that you can't barter with on your own. Like no one, like no single actor is going to Rockstar with any kind of agency as a laborer. Like the reason that we have unions is not like to mitigate relationships between like like an indie developer and like, a B tier actor. Like that relationship doesn't necessarily need to be mitigated because there's like a equality of power, you know, between like smaller artists. But like when it comes to big artists, or not big artists, but like bigger studios, they just have so much control and power, you need a mitigating factor. And so I think like if SAG is like, hey, for video games, there are ways to contract your voice out for, you know, AI voice. And like, I think if it becomes industry standard and like, we're hoping that these institutions protect the ethicalness and like well-being of the people that they're affecting, I think that's going to play a big part in what is accepted, in what is considered acceptable and what's considered not acceptable. Like, I think like, and the same thing with like audio, I don't like, as someone who doesn't make music professionally, I don't know how much like cleaning up of your instrumental samples it's ethical to allow AI to do right now. Like that's not something that I should ever be trusted with making that call. Like we should let the audio engineers, you know, the people who are artists and are making, you know, like when you hear Bear McCreary in God of War, like part of purchasing God of War is purchasing the parts of his humanity that make me feel like the sense of like danger and wonder in God of War, and like how much those professional musicians feel like it's okay for AI, I think is like the standard that we are probably going to have to navigate. But I think that needs to be coming from like experienced professional artists trying to use tools and experimenting, and not executives trying to cut cost. Because those are not the same calculations being made. Like someone recording a guitar and being like, oh, like it's a little tinny, I'm going to like, you know, use AI to fill in some of the bass in a way that traditional, you know, can't. Like that's different than like an exec at Ubisoft being like, hey, I want an AI soundtrack to the next Far Cry game. like those aren't those aren't the same things happening. And so I think like AI, what we consider AI, what we consider ethical and generative AI, I think needs to come from the bottom up. Like the laborers, the artists, the people who are putting their perspective, I think are the most equipped to know when that perspective has gotten away from them and when it hasn't. And I think what terrifies me is that that's not what we're hearing from Ubisoft and like big big game companies. It's the CEOs coming out to shareholders and saying like, we're AI first. We're going to be putting AI in workflow.
Yeah.
But like, what does that mean like to your concept artists? Like, I don't think AI should be doing concept art on a Bethesda game. Like,
no. They have the resources to be able to hire someone who can do concept art. They should be doing that.
Yeah, and they have the resources to hire like some of the most highly trained artists on the planet, like traditionally classically trained people who could like, you know, do a Rembrandt painting. Like these are people who dedicate their lives to it. And so I just think that like that's, as far as like what is acceptable, I think that's kind of where I fall. That should be like industry standard norms set by the people who have a stake in that. Like the people whose jobs would be on the line, the people whose perspectives would be left out, the people who feel like their artistry is no longer being represented. Like I feel like those people should be developing the norms. And then also just on the side of like, I know unethical stuff is going to happen in video games and I'm still going to play video games because I'm a moral coward. I think maybe those, like as far as like AI goes, those are like the two places that I kind of stand. I don't know. Does that make sense, I guess, that rant?
That makes sense. I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, even so outside of a direct creative field, you know, like being a teacher, I like AI and like generative AI has come down a lot to the education space, as I think probably it has a lot of other places, where I'm very forward with my students that like I don't use AI for anything. I don't use it to come up with assignment ideas. I don't use it to generate your assignments because it's important to me to like hone the skill of being a teacher and some of the artistry that's there. But like I have a lot of peers that do use AI for like a lot of things. Like they use it to make assignments and to like come up with ideas for lessons and to find them activities to do. And there's a zillion different like educational AIs to help you like build that kind of stuff. But we're talking about like the industry standard. The one thing that's been made very clear to us is that like you are not to use AI to grade assignments.
Sure.
Because it's like success failure rate is not good enough to be able to do that reliably.
Sure.
But again, it's, you know, like part of the artistry that's there. But I'm also thinking, you know, because I have to deal with a lot of students who try and submit AI assignments. And I think this is in like an academic space, this is going to end up falling a lot to like, is the thing that you're submitting as an assignment, would this classically be considered plagiarism? And I think that's part of like, Dempsey, what I'm hearing a lot from your arguments. And I'm thinking about something like something like music, where the traditional example would have been like, you can sample other songs for your song, and that's okay. You've taken like a short snippet of another song, you're using it as like a vamp, and that's fine. But obviously, like, you can't just take somebody else's song and their voice and be like, this is me.
Yeah.
Even like the idea of a cover, right? Like I'm singing somebody else's song is usually like, this is my arrangement of this song and it was written by like so-and-so, right? It's still, you're like citing your sources.
Everything falls into fair use to a point. Yeah.
Right. I don't know the details behind fair use, but sure. Right. Like everything falls under like fair use and like, this is okay for the artistry side of things, which is, I think probably I imagine how some things will go in the future is like, if you obviously plagiarized this, like if you used AI to create the entire soundtrack for this, that's a problem. Did you use it as a tool for a piece of this? Maybe that'll be more okay in the future, like context dependent and organization dependent and trade dependent, I think is like to be determined.
That's fair. So we're getting there on time. I have a weird question, not a weird question, but I have a question related to this to you guys. Have you guys actually used AI at all in anything, your leisure life, or, you know, probably not professional for anyone, but have you guys actually used AI? I have used it exactly one time. and I used it to parse through my magic collection to see if it could make me a magic deck. And it was nonsense, and it took me like well over an hour to get it to understand what I was trying to ask it, and it was not worth the hassle, and I will never do it again. So it is the one time that I myself have actually used AI or like, ChatGPT, and I tried to get it to make me a Magic the Gathering deck. It failed. It ended up giving me the good bones, but I still had to like substitute like probably like upwards of 30% of the cards, because like it gave me ideas that I already had. It was nothing novel, but it was interesting as a use case for that. But for how tedious it is, and I don't agree with how I just don't agree with AI in general in a lot of cases. I don't think I'll ever do it again, but that's my case.
I guess it depends on what you mean, because I definitely use like the generative AI on Photoshop quite a bit to like paint things out cleaner than otherwise. And that's a full, like that image did not exist.
Yeah.
And I think Photoshop just released something I'm actually really excited about, which is harmonization, which lets you composite other images. And I think that takes a lot from Gen AI at that point. Like that's referencing the images, recreating the images, and then editing the images all through the generative model. So I do think some of that stuff I will use harmonization, because I think that's an incredibly powerful tool to composite images into a scene like that. I've never used a large language model professionally. I tried to one time, and that was to feed it some photo numbers and some names, and like each photo number was correspond with the name on a spreadsheet. And then I wanted to put it in alphabetical and then numerical order. And it hallucinated the entire thing. Like it was almost as if I just told it to do that without any of the information I gave it in the spreadsheet. Like it probably got like 30%, and it spelled the names wrong, and it just fabricated the photo numbers.
Yeah.
And so like I can't imagine using AI in like an office setting, because like it doesn't keep information consistent. So I actually don't know what CEOs are thinking AI is going to be able to do, because like the ChatGPT 5, which is what it was, I tried to feed it like clerical, like the tedious information that they say it's supposed to be good for, and it can't function. Like it doesn't have any sense of continuity. Yeah. I use Google's AI feature a lot, where I have started typing into Google more conversationally and then accepting the first AI answer. So like I Googled like, can I use, like I think the most recent thing was I was out of butter, but I had vegetable oil. And so I was like, can I use liquid vegetable oil as a replacement for butter in this recipe? And instead of going to like a Reddit thread or a website, I took the Gen AI off of Google's Google's Gen AI. I just accepted that as the answer and then moved on with my cooking. And so I think like things like, and that's a pretty common example of somehow Google.
Yeah. I
will accept a Gen AI answer and then not click to the source in which it got that information from.
Fair enough, I guess.
So I guess, yeah, so that's an example of how I would use Gen AI. I don't like Gen AI for brainstorming or like idea generation, even in like creative ways. When it was really new, I remember trying to I had a script, a sci-fi script, like a 2-page short film, and I was trying to see if it could understand what I was going for, and it doesn't really understand like theme or like character growth or like where you want like the tone to be and how the tone changes as the action changes. Like all of those things that like impact a brainstorm of like it's like talking to ChatGPT is like someone who does not actually know what you're talking about, but still wants to give their opinion anyways. Like, oh, like you actually don't understand how a scene works. Like, just stop giving me ideas. Stop. Like, don't actually. I don't want to hear your opinion because you don't know how this functions. And I think that's been interesting because I think a lot of people talk about that. Like, if you don't know anything about a subject, AI seems really smart. But as soon as it starts talking about something you do know about, you can really see how it has no idea what it's talking about.
Yep.
Anyways, That's my rant about the daily use of AI. What about you, Seth?
Yeah, I guess I'll finish this out here. But on Dempsey's last point, I saw somebody talk about the same thing concerning Reddit threads. Like, there's nothing like going on a Reddit thread you actually know something a lot about and seeing a bunch of people talk about something completely incorrectly to just make you be like, I wonder if the entire site is this way.
Yep.
And it's just a bunch of people talking about things that they actually know nothing about.
Uh-huh. That's
which
exactly
is very
what it
deeply
is.
concerning for the amount of time I'd spend on that website. I think my answer about like how often do I use AI on stuff is probably my same answer when people are like, oh, how often do you like drink? And I'm just like, I don't know, every once in a while. Which is to say, like, there's like times I've used like Chat GPT for like one thing or another, but they're few and far between because I'm like, I don't like this as a tool. Like, I don't see a valuable case for it in like my regular life. Because if I want to know something, I want to like hear it from somebody who knows what they're talking about and not a machine that doesn't know what it's talking about.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of guessing. I saw another good example somebody gave, which was like asking Chat GPT something is like probably about the same success rate as just like walking up to somebody on the street and asking them.
Yep.
Like, and at that point, like, why do I even bother? Like, if I'm going to get the answer from ChatGPT and I'm going to need to double check it anyway, why am I not just going to like a recipe website or like Britannica or Wikipedia or any of the other places that it's just getting its information from? It's a secondary source at best, but like one that is wrong 30% of the time, or even if it's wrong like 10% of the time, that's not like a thing I'm willing to, even if it's wrong 1% of the time, right? Like every 100 things I ask it, it's just blatantly wrong on one of them. And I know it's got a success rate lower than 99%.
Yeah.
So like, I just don't see a need. And I wish when I, hit the button on my phone that it didn't pop up Google Gemini and it just like, because I have a Pixel, now when I hit the thing on my phone that brings up like the Siri client, it now just plugs it into like the Google Gemini AI. I'm like, just Google search it for me.
Yep.
And just like read something off the first website. Like, don't
Agreed.
Don't do this to me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a podcast, y'all.
It's a long one too.
That's a bit of a long one.
We had to get our thoughts on AI out. Thanks for listening. If you have thoughts on AI in video games, how you would feel about, learning about your favorite video game using AI, let us know. Email us in the show notes. Otherwise, you can follow us on TikTok. TikTok allows me to schedule posts now, so there will be more TikToks from Overthinking Games podcast because I can now do them all once a week, which has changed my life. You can also follow us on Instagram and Threads and Blue Sky. I get notifications for that, but I don't post very often. But if you send me a message on Blue Sky, we will see it. And YouTube Shorts. And if you like listening on YouTube, we are also on YouTube. But that's it. Thanks for listening. Today's been December 8th. Bye.
Bye.
See y'all.